So hi, you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Al Snow, and I'm a former WWE superstar, host of MTV's and WWE's Tough Enough, and just about any other organization that has been in existence ever in the history of wrestling that has a W somewhere in it.
Wow. You were in Smoky Mountain was that the first major one you were in?
I've been in numerous. I was in numerous ones before that too.
Like as far as like bigger ones, or are they just independents?
They were bigger ones too.
Really? Okay. Wow.
I've been doing this for 27 years, so I was around a lot longer than just Smoky Mountain.
I guess so.
Yeah.
All right. Out of all the organizations you've been in, which would be your favorite?
Whichever one paid me the most at that time.
Which was your least favorite?
The one that paid me the least and had me do the most at that time.
All right.
What was the most fun you had?
When I got paid the most for doing the least at that time.
All right. And right now you're wrestling just independents?
I'm not just I'm doing a lot of other stuff too outside of wrestling.
Well, you're doing some film stuff too, I know, right?
Do a lot of film stuff and a lot of production and things like that. So keep very, very busy.
Okay. How many movies have you been in?
You know, I don't know. I've lost count now. Maybe 10 or 12, I think.
Really?
Something like that. Yeah.
All right.
I really want to know how the whole head gimmick came about.
Well, I was trying to show that I had a nervous breakdown, and found the styrofoam head in the backstage area of ECW Arena, and was trying different things. I was reading a book on abnormal psychology at the time. There was a case that was similar in some ways, and not that they talked to a lady didn't talk to styrofoam head, but she had transference disorder. She had paranoid schizophrenia, and she transferred the problem onto inanimate objects. She heard the voices of other things, and so I thought I would do that.
And that was all totally your idea?
Yeah, Jesus, we beat this with a dead horse. Beat this horse to death. It was my idea. Mick was in a car. I'll tell this story for 100th time. Mick was in a car. It was me, Bob Holly, and Sid Vicious, like about a year or 2 years prior. And Mick used to have a styrofoam head that he carried around, that he put his Mankind mask on to retain its shape. He was in the back seat because Midian had thrown it up in the air and it hit the ceiling fan in a locker room in Montreal. It had cut a gash in the mouth. He was calling it Elaine, fooling around, saying he was going to have sex with it that night at the hotel. When I combined with all the attempts I was trying to do to show that I had a nervous breakdown, I talked to myself in the ring. I just looked like I was calling spots, picking at my clothes. I had obsessive compulsive disorder, a couple other things didn't quite catch on. And I was reading that book on abnormal psychology. I saw the styrofoam head, remembered him doing it, remembered the case, and thought, I'll treat this as if it's a real breathing person. And that was it. It was my idea. It was not his, as much as he would like to tell everybody. Because he would like to say that because I gave him the entire idea for Saka. Which I don't go around say that I did, but apparently I have to. So.
Okay, have you told the story about wrestling yourself a lot?
Several times, yeah.
Because we don't know that one either. Was that your idea also?
That was my idea, and also wrestling, because I'd done a vignette in the backstage area where I had basically had a hardcore match with myself, and then they had me do it on as an actual match at one point. And then I wrestled the head, which I'd been doing on house shows at different points. Not to mention in ECW, whenever I would lose, and this was before Paulie had gotten with the idea of the head or whatever and liked it, because he never liked it at first. I would lose the match, I would just go berserk, and then I would begin to wrestle the head. I would just kick the crap out of it, pile drive, moonsault him, and the crowd would boo me, which made no sense because they would boo me when I would beat up a faceless styrofoam head. But then if I dropped a girl on hers, they didn't care. They thought that was great. They cheered. Go figure.
Do you have any matches that stand out as your favorite or least favorite?
lots of matches that I remember that I really enjoyed. But to just pick one, over so many other ones, really, really, really hard. Especially after this long a time. I mean, I'm just, every time I get the chance to go out, sometimes I enjoy it more than I do other times. Sometimes it's more work than it has to be because the other guys aren't necessarily dancing with you. They're trying to wrestle and they're on a different page. They're trying to have the best match on the show, and I'm trying to have a match that tries to sell the most tickets and doesn't quite match up. And so, that makes it harder. So those are ones that you don't really enjoy as much as the ones where you just go out there and stuff just happens. It's a lot more fun doing that.
Hey, you did a one-off spot in TNA recently.
What's that?
You did a one-off spot in TNA recently.
I couldn't hear you. They're practicing. It's, Lord knows we can't get enough practice. Yeah, I did a spot in TNA back in December. Just on the pay-per-view with Mick and Kurt Angle and Rhino.
Any intention of following that up?
Apparently not. They've called a couple of different times and then they've just never followed through. I guess it's just not the right thing at the right time. Right situation. I'm more than busy enough. I probably haven't been home in 3 months for more than a day, maybe a day and a half. So,
Do you wrestle out of the country at all? Do you wrestle out of the country at all?
Yeah, I wrestle out of the country. I've been to Australia. I was in England in February, Australia in April, the Maritimes in Canada just recently. Supposed to go to Egypt in the beginning of August. There was talk of a trip to Kuwait, and then just got word of one to South Africa. I'm going back to England at the beginning of September for a 3-day weekend where I'm doing some training, and then talking to a guy who wants me to come over to England for a month in October and run a training session for a month, 5 days a week. If I have time, I don't know. It just depends.
Aside from movies, what else do you do on the side?
That's enough. Between wrestling and doing the movies, occasionally I'll take a dump. I'll go and have a bowel movement or two here and there, but and I get to be on lots of planes. I love planes. And then riding cars.
What's your favorite airline?
None. It's not the airlines I hate. I hate the people in the airports. I don't mean necessarily the people working at the airport. I mean the rest of the people in the airport. For some reason, when people, normal, intelligent, have some kind of couth and class outside of a transportation terminal. When they arrive there, and the minute they walk through those glass doors, you can see the shoulders kind of slump forward. You see the head droop, the eyes glaze over, jaw hangs slack, a little bit of drool runs down their chin, and inevitably they are always in front of me. And they suddenly become terrified of making even the slightest misstep, so they'll just stand in your way. So of course you get in line and there are those wonderful self-check-in things. We can't do that, we might make a mistake. Let's just stand there. So if I want to go past you to check in, you'll now get an attitude with me because how dare I walk past you and go use the self-check-in that's there for me to do that so I can expedite this whole wonderful adventure that I'm having, that I had yesterday and 200 other days this year. You're now decided to go to the airport to go see Grandma for a week. Now we'll go to the security, where I now have to strip naked thanks to other idiots who have decided to carry incendiary devices on different airplanes at different times because they have to worship their God in some form by killing other people. Brilliant. Just absolutely brilliant. But of course I get those people that are slack-jawed and drooling in front of me in line, and of course can't seem to read the 152 self-explanatory signs that tell them what they need to do before they get there to take off what they need to take off and take what they need out of their bag. So of course we have to go through all of that, and they have packed everything plus their kitchen sink that we're going to now take through the metal detector. Once I finally get through the metal detector, we will make our way to the gate, where once any kind of announcement is made, everybody jumps up. Even if it's not about your flight, we all must jump out of our seat and run to the entranceway of the plane. I haven't realized this in 27 years of traveling and flying around the world, but airlines have been for quite some time now. If you're the first person on the plane, they give you a prize. That's the only thing I can understand. This is why it would motivate people to stand up like a herd of cattle and slam themselves bodily into a small door just to get on a plane and sit there for another 30, 40 minutes. Don't understand it, can't grasp it, but they do it every day. Once we're on the plane, you know, heaven forbid you should be sitting in one seat that you may not be in, need to be in. They will tell you to get up and move. Even though it's the same seat, just one row back or one row forward or whatever, apparently that seat they're getting into will get there sooner than any other seat on the plane. Also, there is a race once the plane lands to have everybody get off the plane as fast as possible. I don't care what the destination is, but once the plane lands, it's as if there's an emergency evacuation and the back of the plane's on fire and everybody gets run to the front. I've seen old people trampled. Everybody gets off the plane as fast as they can. Why? Where are they going? Nowhere. The same place I'm going 15 minutes later, which is down at the baggage claim, so they can stand there as if they're a bunch of starving children in a third world country surrounding a UNICEF food truck, begging for their baggage to show up.
When you're in the airport, and because you're famous, are you really recognized by tons of people?
It depends. A lot of times. Sometimes, you know, it doesn't bother me. I mean, I've worked my whole career to get it, so I'm certainly not going to complain about it. You know, I appreciate the fact that there are people that are fans, because without them, I wouldn't have a job. I don't like the hey. You don't know me, why are you touching me? Not a germaphobe, but even that, you can see that kind of gets you like, what the hell is wrong with you? I also don't like these statements that a lot of people make, which is in their efforts or attempts to try to tear you down a little bit, kind of bring you down, like they think you're high, you think you're high and mighty. Look, I'll tell you right now, I don't think I'm high and mighty. I'm lucky enough to do a job that everybody happens to see and watch and enjoy watching me do. You know, sorry if people don't want to pay to see you work at Circle K or 7-Eleven. But, one, if you want to know who I am, don't come up with, hey, who are you? What's your name? What's your name, man? And then proceed to keep hitting me. It gets under my skin. If you had attended the etiquette classes that were held at the laundromat in the trailer park on Wednesdays while you were growing up, they would have taught you the way to approach a stranger is by coming up and going, hi, my name is ... What is yours? And without smacking me. Also, I do not need to know that you don't know who I am and that you don't watch wrestling. Because if you don't know who I am and you don't watch wrestling, then why the hell are you bothering me? Third, I don't need to know you don't watch wrestling anymore. Because guess what? Neither do I! And haven't for at least 10 years. I don't care if you haven't watched wrestling. The only reason I care if you do is because that way it keeps me employed. If you don't watch wrestling, then don't come talk to me. If you don't know who I am, you just happen to see a bunch of other people surrounding me and you decide that, well, give me your autograph even though I don't know who you are, why would you want it? You don't know me. So leave me alone.
So it's perfectly acceptable to see you from afar and say, holy crap, it's Al Snow.
Absolutely.
And just walk up and say, my name is Joe.
That's the fourth thing. Okay? I appreciate appreciate people recognize me. I really do, and it does not bother me. And if you want to come up and talk to me, please feel free to come talk to me. You know, and say I really enjoyed this, or I didn't enjoy that, or you know, thank you for doing this, or you know, well, you suck. I don't care what it is, but one, know who I am. Two, have some topic or subject you want to cover, and realize when the conversation's ended and go away. But the fourth thing that really bothers me is the seeing me at least 100 to 500 yards away and screaming across a public area, "Hey, Elso! You're not a long-lost family member. You're not a long-lost friend. You're not a long-lost dog. Why are you yelling at me like that?" If by chance, which at this point in my career, it probably isn't like there's a mass of people that recognize me, but even if there were, why would you think I would want to call the entire airport's attention to me and my presence? You notice me, you recognize me, just walk over. "Hey, Al, are you Al Snow?" "Yeah, I know, yeah." "Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name is..." "Oh, thank you very much. Well, I just want to let you know I think you suck." "I'm sorry to hear that. You know, maybe next time I'll, you know, try and do a little better. But anyways, have a nice day." "Okay, see you later." And go. "Hey, it's spring break." "Oh, stuff. It's like a knife in my spine.
What's the latest movie you've done?
I just did a horror film called Hell House, and I'm thinking of producing a movie. I'm going to do a new take on vampire movies because, you know, with Twilight and all that being so popular, I mean, since they've decided to do homosexual vampires, I've decided to do vampires that were all midgets, and I'm going to call it Ankle Biters.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The movies you have been, are they on straight to DVD or?
You know, some of them are film festival movies. Some of them have been released in theaters. So it just depends.
Where can people? Is stuff on your site about them?
Not right now. I've not been real good about updating the site because I've been on the road a lot and just haven't had the opportunity to do so. I did put some pictures from Hell House up on the on Facebook the other day.
When is that coming out? Is that out?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea.
Have you done any production on your own yet?
Nothing major. But I want to start doing some documentaries and things like that.
What kind of subjects?
There's a young team of basketball performers, not basketball players, and basketball performers called the Anchorage Alexandria Aces from Alexandria, Minnesota, and they're school children from grade 2 to 4, and they perform around the country in halftime games, NBA, college, things like that. They're like the Harlem Globetrotters type thing. Just shorter and younger, and not all of them black.
What made you get into pro wrestling to begin with?
Because I love the wrestling business. I wanted to... Please, yeah. Okay, yeah, I'll get right there. Shoot me now. Anyway, I love the wrestling business, and I decided that was what I wanted to do when I was about 14, and I tried for numerous years to get into wrestling, and when I was 18, I was finally able to do it. At that time, it was harder to be a made man in the mafia than it was to get in the wrestling business. It was very protected. Not just anybody could get in it, but just my persistence and just keep plugging at it. I finally was able to convince somebody to take responsibility for me and train me.
Is there anything else people should know?
Oh, there's lots of stuff people should know.
About Al Snow.
I mean, I could go down a list of stuff that people should know. But, you know, apparently people have suddenly forgotten because, of course, the world circles around all of you. And wherever you go, You are the most important thing in that universe. Nothing else around you is important but you. I don't know. I mean, what else do you guys want to know? I'll tell you whatever you want to know. I'm an open book, except for when, the FBI or other federal authorities are questioning me. Then I have to always plead the fifth. So, how'd that body get in the trunk? I don't know.
What was your least favorite gimmick that you've done throughout the years?
At the time there would be gimmicks and things that I wouldn't enjoy because I just was short-sighted and I didn't view them as what they really were, which was an opportunity. But then looking back, I mean, and people coming up unprovoked or unprompted, coming up and saying, "Oh, I remember that. I remember this. And God, I really enjoyed that." And I realized, wow, to them it wasn't a big deal. I mean, to them it was something they really enjoyed. They were entertained. So,
like Avatar.
Yeah, I mean, if I could have taken more advantage of it, and if I had done the right business when I had that gimmick, who knows where it could have went. But when I stepped through the ropes, that was my opportunity. That was my responsibility to do what it was that I had to do. If I don't deliver, that's not the gimmick's fault. It's not Vince's fault. It's not Jim Crockett's fault. It's not any number of Ed Farhat's fault. It wasn't Dick the Bruiser's fault. It wasn't Ron Gagne's fault. It was mine. It was not that somebody held me down or gave me a crappy gimmick. It was that I was given it a gimmick to give it an opportunity, and if I didn't make the most of it, hey, who am I going to blame? So, I can make excuses, point the finger, which I used to do a lot. But bottom line is, at the end of the day, when you step through the ropes, you don't deliver. It's you, nobody else. When you go through there, nobody can help you, and nobody can do anything to now hurt you either. Nobody can do anything to hinder you. They can make it harder, but you can still figure out ways to do what it is you need to do. I didn't do that.
Now, you were in WCW too, right?
I was in WCW, never on a full-time schedule, like with, on TV or whatever. I came in, worked house shows and things like that.
That would be why I don't remember you there. I didn't know you were even there. Out of the major organizations...
Could be that there are some things in wrestling you just don't know.
That's very possible.
My God.
I'm guessing there's a lot.
It could be. I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes. But remember, wherever you are, center of the universe.
Well, of course, yes. What would you say the differences are between the big organizations you were in?
Really just different philosophies, different style or approach to what they felt worked, and then but it was still, at the end of the day, every company, every promoter, all around, at the end of the day, it was about how many people can we put in the building, and then how many more people can we put in the building, and then once we get those many people in the building, how many more people can we put in the building. It was always a constant. What can we do now to get even more people? What can we do to get it even hotter? What can we do now to get more people talking about? What can we do now if we've sold out the entire city of Geneva, New York? What can we do now to get people to drive from other cities surrounding Geneva to come to Geneva? What can we do now to get to the point to where we can't run Geneva anymore because so many people are driving in? We're going to now go to Buffalo and run the building there. It's always trying to build, always trying to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Always trying to put more people in the building so that you can run a bigger building so you can put more people in it, so you can just constantly do that.
If you could change anything about the wrestling business today, what would it be?
If I could change anything about the wrestling business, I think make it harder to get in, make guys responsible for who they break in. That needs to go back that way. I think that it'd be nice I wish that there were, and it's just not possible, but I wish that there were a lot of older generation wrestlers still in the locker room that were there when I came into the business, and not older generation wrestlers by 5 or 6 years or 10 years that have just wrestled on and I'm not saying this to slight anybody, but wrestled on on a part-time basis. I mean guys that's what they did for a living. They didn't paint a house and then wrestle. They didn't work at the steel mill and wrestle. They wrestled. That was it. That's all they did to feed their family. That's all they did to pay the rent. That's all they did to put clothes on their back, food on the table. Yeah, I know. I agree. And when you had those people there, they helped steer the next generation to understand what was important, where the priorities were, things like that. And now what's steering the next generation are not guys who have genuine, relatable experience to what the real priorities are. It's now guys that are outside of the wrestling business, have never really done it for a living, and are actually just simply critics of the business that now attempt to direct the business and successfully do direct the business via their opinions without ever actually having to, well, geez, if tomorrow night there aren't this X many people, well, I'm not going to be able to make the money. If tomorrow night, if I don't do what I need to do tonight, well, I'm probably not going to get booked next week. It kind of gives you a complete different relationship with what goes on and why it goes on than just being able to sit on the outside and go, this match sucked and I didn't like what he did and I didn't like the leg drop, it was so sloppy and he should have performed a better hammerlock, and this one was 5 stars, it really enraptured me. And you're entitled to your opinion. I say feel free to make it as much as you want. You paid your money to watch the performance, and by all means you can say it was good or bad depending upon your opinion, but unless you have an actual true, and those critics will say, well, I don't have to step in the ring to know about wrestling, and you're right, you don't have to do something to necessarily know it, but the older I've gotten, the better I've understood, and I tell this to my son all the time and my daughter, and this is, they're both very intelligent, sophisticated children. My daughter's 21, my son's 20, and when I have a conversation with my son, and he goes, well, what do you know? And I'm like, well, you're right, what do I know? Because I don't know everything, but there's a big difference between my son and I. My son's 20, I've been 21, 22, 23, and 24. Guess what he has not yet been? None of those things. So do you think just because of the fact that I've already been 22, 23, and 24, maybe I have a slight edge on him? The same goes for this. Because unless you've actually stepped in the ring and done it and had some experience and had some where you've made your mistakes and you've learned from them, and where those mistakes have cost you opportunities to make more mistakes or make more money or be a higher position or do more things, how can you relate to that? How can you, say I don't know what it's like to work in a steel mill. I know what it's like to work in a steel mill, but I've never worked in a steel mill, so how am I going to tell somebody working in a steel mill, oh, well, you're stupid, you suck, man, you shouldn't have done that. And then the guy in the steel mill, this is the real rub now, the guy in the steel mill go, God, so-and-so told me I sucked, I better change how I'm working in the steel mill now, even though he's never worked a goddamn day in the steel mill. That's insane, but unfortunately that's what it's become in this business.
What's the worst injury you've ever received in the ring?
God, I've had a minor stroke from a head injury. I have a neurological problem down the entire right side.
Was that something that came over time or from one incident?
I don't know. Doctors don't know. The time when, for months at a time I'd cough up blood every time I got into wrestling. One time you have a sack of fluid around your heart, and from the impact of one of the guys landing on me night after night after night, about I think 10 nights in a row or whatever, I went home and I could lean to the side and you could hear my heart clicking against the inside of my rib cage for about 4 or 5 days. Cracked my tailbone, that was fun.
Oh, that.
As I was showering and then dropped the soap, bent over to pick it up, couldn't stand back, and wrestlers being wrestlers, I'd call out for help and stuck. And They come in and start laughing at me and poking me in the asshole, and, which then caused me to glue one guy to his bed sheets and then super glue another guy's soles of his feet together.
Is there a lot of practical joking backstage?
Not so much anymore. Not so much anymore. I used to like a lot of guys use the term paying dues, and they say that, well, he didn't pay his dues, and they think paying dues is like coming to shows like this and working for little or no money and driving around, and that is paying dues, but where the real paying dues used to be, the older guys would first physically abuse you, but they did that, now I understand, they did that because they'd stretch you, but they'd actually put holds on you so that you had a better understanding of how to sell them, how to make them more realistic, make them appear more realistic. Because if you never had an actual armbar put on, you don't know how to sell it properly. If you've never had a real headlock put on, where a guy puts a headlock on you and makes all the blood vessels in both eyes burst, then you don't know where to grab and what to do instinctually to make people in the audience believe that that's what the guy's doing to them. And that really is what you're trying to attempt to sell. Selling is not acting like you heard, it's to get people to buy into what you're doing. But then when they would get done doing that, then they would also emotionally terrorize you, mentally screw with you for, every single day. One time they made me believe that I was a partner of a hit and run and a murder, and that, for 2 weeks tried to see if I would stooge the guy off, torturing me. The time they threw me a birthday party, that was, at 18 years old, I would, if anything moved, I would nail it. So I'd walk into a room in a fish tank and fish would stop swimming because they were like thinking I'm gonna screw them or something. It was a big practical joke to get a girl to come up, approach you, talk you up, take you up to the hotel room, get you naked, and then big giant husband guy kicks the door in with a gun, and then you go run screaming out down the hallway. And I made it down the stairs and was out in the parking lot naked before they stopped us. Things like that. It's funny, and I mean, at the time it wasn't funny. Now it's funny, and it was a way to see if you would, if you quit, you started slowly earning their respect. As you earned their respect, you earned your spot. As you earned your spot in the locker room, you developed from there. But it was because of the fact that they realized that it only takes one guy to kill business. You create an illusion that everybody has not believed in or has been smart to since the 30s. The only thing fake about wrestling is the finish. It's the only thing that's fake. Everybody's known that the finish has been fake since the 1930s, since newspapers stopped reporting on it as if it was an actual competitive situation. So when these people pay tonight to come in, they're not paying just to watch a wrestling show or see great matches. They pay to believe, even if it's just for the time they're in the building, that this is about a competition. It's no different than magic. You guys all know that, Chris Angel ain't really altering reality, I hope. Altering reality. He's not floating for real, but while you're watching, you can suspend your disbelief. You can, wow, how do you do that? Same thing, they want to believe that you're really out there trying to beat the guy, not just beat him up. They know it, so they're paying to come in and want to buy into that, want to believe into that. And if everybody on the show helps create that illusion, and all through the night, the tension, that believability just keeps building, the emotion just keeps building, and the excitement keeps building, and then one guy goes out and we're done. Killed it. You go to watch that magic show, you go to watch a concert, and the opening acts keep playing. Well, now the main act comes out, and you've got that fever pitch built throughout the building, and the drummer was sick. So now we got to get this drummer, throw the drummer in there, and he's the shit. He's horrible. Now what happens to the entire night?
Well, they say they're in the wrong town.
How many guys did it take to do that? One guy. And it's even more important here. And guys need to realize that and understand it. And, That's why they would put you through all of that. And the last thing they wanted to do was have you get hot, catch fire, be the guy that could draw money. Here they all do everything they could to get you over or get you heat on you, and then you can't take the pressure. You crack, go home. Oh, shit. There was 6 months, 8 months, a year that we just pissed down the tubes and we wasted. What was the point of that? You know? Now we all got to start all over again. You know? So in order to make sure that didn't happen, they'd just twist you up, see if you quit.
Would you say after all this time it's been worth it? Are you happy with it?
Yeah. God, yeah. I have been on vacation for 27 years. I've gotten to do what I love to do. I have no regrets. You know, sure, there are times when I've had aggravation, frustration, heartbreak, heartache, but nothing like this business. This is the greatest business in the world. I've gotten to live an adventure for 27 years. Where else am I going to get to do it? I've gotten to go all over the world, go to see things, do things, meet people, go places, have opportunities, blow huge opportunities, succeed in big opportunities, you name it. You know, what else could you do and get to live a life like that? And it's all because of the wrestling rules. You know, nothing to be bitter about, nothing to regret. You know, I wish that I hadn't made some mistakes that I made. You know, I wish I knew then what I know now, and you know, things like that. But at the end of the day, I mean, think of it this way: how serious can you take this business? We're going to go out tonight, and we're going to dress in underwear, and we're going to fake fight another man in front of people for money.
Nowhere. Good job.
Is this something that I need to slice my wrist for? Oh my God, that was a horrible match. So-and-so said it wasn't 5 stars. Oh God. I'm fake fighting another grown man for money, for Christ's sake. No matter what living I make off of this business, if I could make a living feeding my family, clothing my children, putting a roof over their head, sending them to college, etc., paying the car payment, paying the rent, by fake fighting another man in my underwear, I would say that was a hell of a 27 years, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
I mean, shoot, how many people would want to do that for a living?
Where can people find stuff on you online? What are your sites?
Probably To Catch a Predator. America's Most Wanted. Midgets Are Us. I love midgets. In fact, I'm thinking of I'm going to open a training school for midgets. I'm going to train them to cage fight to the death. I think that'll be the next big thing in pay-per-view. In fact, to add another spin, you know, because even if midgets are killing each other, at some point that's going to even get old for the public. But I'm going to have celebrity midget cage fighting, and I've already got like Gary Coleman and Vern Troyer signed. You know, it'll be tremendous. Cage won't be as big, don't need to be. It's not like they can get out. And you know, I know a lot of people are concerned, you know, about the human rights aspect of it. Midgets aren't human, okay? And it's not like they can vote. I know they're entitled to vote, I understand that, but it's not like they can't because they can't reach the lever. So I'm free to do whatever I want.
I don't think I can top that with any questions.
And we're done.